Welcome to the May 2024 episode of Gloucester County's Current Conversations podcast. I'm Quentin Shepard, the Community Engagement and Public Information Manager for the county. Today, we're joined with Jane Wenner, our Emergency Management Coordinator. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Today, we've got some pretty heavy news to talk about regarding the upcoming hurricane season. Unfortunately, researchers are predicting an extremely active season for their initial 2024 forecast. Jane and I were fortunate to be able to attend the National Hurricane Conference about a month or so ago, and that was the main theme throughout the conference was, that this forecast is looking like it could be a pretty dangerous one for the United States coastline. So, Jane, can you tell me a little bit about what exactly forecasters are predicting for 2024?
So for 2024, they're predicting this to be one of our most active seasons. And they're saying that we will probably have approximately 23 named storms. And that's significant because they don't typically put a name to a storm because it could be a tropical storm or just bad weather. But the Tropical Weather and Climate Research, which is what they go by, it's called seasonal forecasting, has done a lot of extended range forecast and trying to note about how many and what our average is and how that will change. And our average is about 14 named storms, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And this year they're saying we'll have at least 23, maybe more.
Wow.
And that it will be coming up the East Coast this year. So last year it was going in through the Gulf, and we saw what it did to Florida and beyond. This year, it looks as if the storms that will be coming through will impact us.
And a lot of this, from what we kind of learned, is due to the several factors, but mostly due to the water temperatures out in the Atlantic. A warm Atlantic leads to a lower atmospheric pressure and more unstable atmosphere. So, unfortunately, both of those conditions favor hurricanes, and I think that's what's driving this above average forecast for the upcoming season. So hurricane season officially does not start until June 1st, but there's already been a little bit of activity even as of the end of April out in the Atlantic. I don't think that one system has really turned into anything, has it, Jane?
No, it hasn't. They're still watching it because it's early for
Mhm.
anything to develop, even that far out.
Yeah,
But it's just indicative of what they're expecting. And
exactly.
the last few years, since we have not had any impact that was significant, we tend to get complacent
Mm-hmm.
and we don't take these reports as seriously as we could.
21 years ago, those of us who experienced Isabel firsthand, and then even Ernesto a couple years after that, we remember the extreme devastation that any type of hurricane, even Isabel was a not a major hurricane, but it still caused major destruction to a lot of people. And I remember the county being without power for some folks a week or more, and people were struggling to find fuel to power up their generators. So, it really, even though thankfully we haven't seen that type of event in quite a while, like Jane said, we can't become complacent, and we've got to go ahead and make sure that our preparations are underway now before we get caught short. So, Jane, what are some of the main things that people need to do now in order to prepare for hurricane season, especially given this report that we're hearing?
So really awareness. We have a system called Be Alert, that you can go on the county website and register for. That lets you know when there is a storm threat that could impact your area. And just being prepared is your key. And that means having a full tank of gas in your car, making sure your cell phones are charged, making sure that you have alternate power if you need that, and making sure that people know where you are and that you are safe if you
Mhm.
choose to leave the area. Be aware where our shelters are, and let us know if you are in a vulnerable position, meaning that you might need assistance during a storm. We can't guarantee certain types of help, but us knowing where you are gives us a head start on making sure that you're aware of what's happening and that we can help.
People shouldn't be afraid to reach out to emergency management directly if they have special needs. That way they can be documented, and you all can be made aware of what types of needs there are out there.
Right. And that helps us prepare the shelter,
Hmm.
but it also helps us to know if you might need transportation, or if you have a caregiver, or if you're oxygen dependent. If you are a caregiver, all of those things come into play.
Hmm.
Or do you have pets? Are they taken care of? Are you going to be leaving the area? Does anybody know that? Because we do get a lot of phone calls of concerned family members looking for people that they haven't heard from. So we ask that you develop an evacuation plan, and that includes letting people know what that plan is, where you might go. Make sure you have food and water, extra batteries, keep cash on hand, even if it's just a little bit, to make sure that if the banks are not operating, or we're out of power and even your ATM isn't working, make sure you have a little bit of cash. It's very, very important for you to check your insurance policy. Find out what damages are covered, if a named storm is covered, if it's a natural disaster, if that is covered, all of these things. Handwrite a list of your contacts and get a communication plan, and make sure that if you live in a mobile home, that that is secure. Because when we get high winds, a lot of times those homes are not as secure and they are impacted. So it's very, very basic information.
Hmm.
And again, we get complacent because we haven't had anything. And if
That's
you
right.
do have a pet, make sure that you prepare for them as well.
Sure.
And if you are storing items like canned goods, water, and so forth, remember certain things like a can opener, something that seems silly,
Hmm.
but you're going to need. Make sure that you have enough water to get by. And that might mean filling up your bathtub when you know a storm is coming, or your washing machine. And very, very simple things that you can do, that if you do have to go a few days or a few weeks without power, you have some ways to get your, get food, get water, and take care of yourselves.
Absolutely, because we know, just even when we have the threat of winter weather or something like that, the second things start coming out, from the weather forecasters, the grocery stores, things start quickly disappearing off the shelves. So it's a lot of times, that they're just can't keep up. So we need to make sure that we keep enough food and water on hand to sustain us for a bit of time. So that brings me to the question that I think is on a lot of folks' mind that do have pets. Are pets allowed in the shelter?
They are,
Okay.
which is another reason that's important for people to get on our mass notification list. There is a section there. Do you have pets? Would you bring them to the shelter? Because we do have pets, you are responsible to walk them and so forth. So make sure you have pet food also. When you're storing food for yourself, make sure you do that. Also, make sure that your pets have some kind of identification on them.
Okay.
Because if something happens and they do get out during a storm, we want to be able to make sure animal control can return them to you.
Absolutely. And then, another thing that people really need to keep in mind is that, when we think of hurricanes, we think of, you know, wind damage, power lines being down. But one of the most dangerous things, especially for folks along the coastal areas of the county, are storm surges. So, there's the whole know your zone, which I'm sure a lot of folks have heard about, but it really is important to know what your flood zone is, and it goes to show you, if a Category 1 hurricane is predicted, uh, where can you expect the storm surge to be? And it's an interactive map on knowyourzoneva.org. Um, so, we encourage you to go check that out to make sure you keep up with what your risks are when it comes to storm surge. How can people sign up for the alert?
So there's several different ways, but the easiest way is to go to our website. And when you go to gloucesterva.info or gloucesterva.info/em, it pops up that Be Alert is an option. And you click that and you fill it out. You could also call us at 804-693-1390, and we can fill that form out for you and with you. It only takes 2 minutes. You don't get spam calls. You only get calls that are going to impact you directly.
And we're not going to sell your information or, use it in any kind of nefarious way. This is strictly a program that is utilized to make sure that all of our residents stay informed and stay safe. And just a few other ways, that you can keep up with the latest announcements. The county utilizes several social media sites such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we also update our website regularly, gloucesterva.gov. So we encourage you to please follow those sites, especially the Gloucester County, Virginia government Facebook page, as we bring you updates throughout storm situations and where you can find shelter, the latest on the conditions, the latest news about what your county government is doing to help you during an emergency situation. So it's real important that you subscribe to those pages if you do not do so already. Jane, is there anything else that you'd like to mention that we haven't covered today?
We also have a community emergency response team in our
Yeah.
county. It's called CERT. You may see them out at events wearing a green vest. We have quite a few residents that participate in Gloucester, Matthews, and Middlesex. We offer training 4 times a year. It's a 2-day free training. And during emergencies, what happens is we have a lot of individuals that want to come out and help. And a good example is the tornadoes that just impacted Kentucky and through those areas and Texas. And they actually had a lot of what they call unaffiliated volunteers show up and want to help. And they had to figure out where they could go and what they could do. When you don't have that training, you may not be able to help quite as much as you want.
Mhm.
So we provide this training for you so that in our community, you can be more effective with your helping, not just the community as a whole, but your family and your neighbors as well.
Absolutely. That group does incredible things, and Jane works really hard to make sure that they're all up on the latest training, and they really are very diligent workers that put in a lot of volunteer hours. So we really appreciate their time, and they're invaluable during emergency situations. So Jane, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank
We'll
you.
continue to keep you all updated, as we learn more about things. Obviously, forecasts can change, but right now it's looking like it's really time to start thinking about this, not be complacent, and start making some preparations so that if the forecast does turn out to be true, that we're all ready and prepared to handle it as best as we can. So thank you, and we'll see you again on the podcast.
Thank you.